anyone would like to contact me on anything specific, but maybe we take 10 or 15 minutes to, if anyone has any questions on any elements, I'm happy to answer those as well. Sunday evening. Yes, Mr. Smiley.
I was a member of one of your focus groups. We had some conversations. I've read the reports available to date, and there's just a couple of things I'd like to make reference to. In your operational review, I think.
Yes.
You sort of used the financial figures for 15 to 17 and the 2018 budget as
correct.
a sort of trajectory for basing further financial planning. You know, with the accounts for 2018, I think, you know, to a large extent we're really back to 2015. So that will influence your recommendations
yes.
for planning. You do mention that you're reliant on the provision of accurate information from the management. And I wonder, did the management not draw your attention to the fact that, in fact, that really the budget for 2018 wasn't going to be an accurate reflection of the 2018 financial position. But now that you're aware of it, I expect that you'll take account of it. But
indeed.
one other thing now that I think is worthy of mention. In the survey, you asked members to estimate their number of rounds they play. And I think the estimate was something like 58, am I right?
Correct.
Roughly.
Higher.
Later on in your analysis, you use an estimate of 17 rounds per member. Now this is drawn, and this is my own interpretation, I think I'm reasonably accurate. This is drawn from the utilization of the BRS system.
Correct.
Now the BRS system, of course, many people use it for casual golf, but a lot of people don't. It's used, you know, obviously for visitors, for booking times. It's used on Saturdays and Sundays for competitions from the months of March to October. The rest of the year, there are no timesheets. There are competitions on Wednesday, no timesheets. And as I say then, in addition, there's a lot of casual golf. It would be my belief, and this would be a guess, obviously, just as the members have guessed at their average round, but I think the guess or estimate from the members would be closer to what actually is reality than the 17 rounds per member that your survey has used for making projections or drawing conclusions as to the availability of the course for visitors, etc. And I think it's particularly misleading, Rob, if you don't mind my saying so, because it sort of implies that a third of the golf of the island is played by visitors, and I don't believe that that's anywhere like the right. I would say it's more like a sixth of the golf at the island is played by visitors. So I think obviously planning, as you say, your plans are evidence-based. I think some of the evidence that you're relying on can be questioned, and I hope you'll make appropriate modifications to it.
Thanks, Stuart. I would say in terms of the rounds, the reason we asked members in the survey as to how many rounds they felt they played and when, and what type of rounds, was because we didn't have a great deal of faith that the data coming out of BRS was accurate, as you've just perfectly described. And so one of the recommendations in the strategic plan is that the club put in place a system that is far more accurate in tracking all of its rounds in order to make more informed utilisation decisions in the future. The other reason we built into the survey the question as to what was the member's sense as to how many rounds they wanted visitors to play at the club, either consistent with today, more or less. We looked at overall member satisfaction. In other words, we didn't take and we didn't rely, none of our recommendations rely on the data from BRS. What we've done is we've made a recommendation that the club do a better job in tracking its utilisation in the future. And it's not just tracking our round of golf, it's tracking what category of member played, and did they play 9 holes or 12 holes? Was it a competition round or a non-competition round? What time of day it was? All of that is really powerful when it comes to planning for the future of the club and understanding how the club is used. Because right now, based on BRS, the club doesn't know enough about how it's used. And that's why we asked those questions in the survey. So to your point, George, I would say we haven't relied on BRS. We asked questions through the member survey in order to get a better sense of it. We're making a recommendation that roundages stay as is currently. We've seen pressure on access to the tee. So that was one of the questions in the survey which I didn't throw up. We asked, was there a difficulty? How did members rate getting onto the golf course? Weekend mornings, weekend afternoons, midweek mornings, midweek afternoons, and the weekends are clearly a big issue. There's a very low level of satisfaction with access at the weekend. So we took all of that data as an indication that there's pressure on the golf course at those peak times, and there looks like there isn't a great deal of pressure off peak times. And so right now we're not in a position to say this is the right number of rounds for the island, either visitor or member, because I think the club has to first do a better job of tracking its utilisation before it can make that kind of a specific recommendation. I hope that answers your question.
Well, I hope the club will do what's necessary to get that sort of data, whether it's done through an alternative to BRS
Yeah.
or just by manual
Yeah.
tracking on random days or selected
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, just one short question. I see, excuse me,
It's okay.
an awful lot of stuff there, and I'm just slightly confused with this strategic plan. It has so many elements into it. If you want to hire nearly as many consultants or employees as we have members of the club to do all of those. Can I ask just one simple question? I admit a bias to consultants. I spend a lot of my time listening to and just regularly that relies standardized statistics and consultants' reports. But anyway, could you give me in a very short sentence why the club exists?
A short sentence as to why the club exists. I would say the club exists to primarily serve the needs and aspirations of its membership. Sorry, you asked about the amount of work for implementation. Did you mention?
Just why the club exists, because it seems to me it's for the members who can benefit, and we're taking that to very extremes, because we have to ask ourselves, well, how do we finance it? And it's a fairly simple proposition, it seems to me. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. I think he's just gone.
Frank Ward is my name. I didn't do the survey, but I wrote a letter, and what turned me off in the survey was the fact one question was asked, do you think that, it mentioned the Irish Open. Well, I think myself that it's absolutely impossible for the island to host the Irish Open. I've been to 47 major championships, and I've worked with a good many of them. And really, the Irish Open, when it comes tournaments in Dublin is virtually at the same level as a major championship. So to get the crowds in and out of the island by any means, unless you put about 3 or 4 paving bridges across the estuary, I don't think you bring them in. Anyway, the other thing too about it is too that the other reason I wasn't very much interested in people because you excluded the over 80s, and I'm over 80, so you excluded them. And as well as that too, I don't know whether you ever considered as well as that too, that apart from all of that, the game itself is in decline. And that's another issue that really has got to be considered, the overall context of all the clubs in this country and probably in the world. Okay, thank you very much.
I agree with your last point. It is in decline. In fact, one of the encouragements, again, from the focus groups, and we were very supportive of, was the recommendation, the introduction of a short course at the club. Because the primary pressures on golf, the primary pressure that's identified as a factor of golf participation over the last 15 years and predicted to be over the next 25 years is time, is how much time it takes to play 18 holes of golf. And so those clubs that are finding success with providing access to a golf facility at their club, which only takes an hour and a half, or certainly under 2 hours. So your point is a point well made. I don't believe we excluded over 80s. Certainly didn't on purpose. If the club had your email address, the survey was distributed to that email address. If you didn't have an email address, there were hard copies available in the office for everyone and anyone to come and complete the survey. So I don't believe that's the case.
I believe that the focus groups over 80s were excluded.
No, I think we had a few things. We did do by age category. I think we had an over 70s group, but then we also had 2 volunteer groups, which were not age related at all. So anyone who wanted to contribute could have attended either of those volunteer ones. So it certainly didn't intend to exclude anyone.
Nick Smith, I'm a member for almost 50 years. I'm impressed by the whole thing, and I think it can definitely lead us into a direction. But I think there's one element that I would like to see emphasised more, and that is, and you've touched on it in one of the pillars, that the world has changed. This is working on the assumption that the world will go on, roughly speaking, as it is at the moment, as it has done in the past. But the reality is that family life has changed enormously. The days when a significant lump of money can be paid out of household income and one member of the family disappear for half a day, at least once a week, are gone. Mm-hmm. I think that we should be putting a huge emphasis upon some form of family membership, because it's the only sustainable thing going forward.
Yeah, I fully agree. Fully agree. And in fact, one of the recommendations being the introduction of family membership, absolutely important, the development of junior golf, but also it takes time to shift the culture of any club. And I think over the 6-year time frame, I think the island will certainly start to see that shift in emphasis, because it also not just means membership categories. There's no point offering a membership category and then not being able to deliver a family experience. So it impacts clubhouse, it impacts policies. What do I have to wear when I come to the club with my children? What do they have to wear? Are they allowed in there? Are they not? So there's a whole raft of changes, albeit many of them subtle. And I think the other thing that came out of exactly that sentiment in the focus groups was the idea of this short course, a 9-hole, or whether it be an expanded putting course, a facility where families can spend time, because the golf course is clearly a difficult golf course and may not be, as it currently stands, an amenity that attracts a broad range of families, certainly beginners or new players. So having a facility that is usable by families, by all age category of family, is also very important. So I think you make a really great point, and it's certainly a point of emphasis, even though I might not have emphasised it too much this evening. It is in the plan. Okay? Oh, one more.
Just a short question, really. You touched on it a moment ago about the desirability of holding the Irish Open here as
Oh, I
being
didn't answer, yes.
a target.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, I imagine, would fit in with the earlier objective of increasing the prestige of the club and increasing its image abroad. But you made no mention, or there was no mention anywhere about similar type or alternative events. I don't believe the Irish Open is suitable for here, but I do think the club could gain considerably by focusing on major amateur events, because they have less spectators at them and they do get a lot of publicity. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very valid point. The reason we included the Irish Open in the survey was because that was what was specifically raised in the focus group session. So we wanted to get a measurement of sentiment on that. I think the other key focus is that the club and the membership clearly want the golf course. The course is the hub of the club. It is why members join. It is why the island has the reputation it has, and it's why members stay. And so this aspiration to continually improve the quality and standard of the links is the highest priority. And I would suggest that although the Irish Open does not have a great deal of support for one reason or another, good, bad or indifferent, I think if you achieve a links that's presented to world-class standard, then I would suggest it's almost inevitable that the pressure will come on the club in some way, shape or form to host major amateur tournaments or some other significant event. Whether or not it's in support of the club's long-term strategy right now, I think is a decision for the council to put to the membership at the time once that arises. But our recommendation is the club focus on the calibre, quality, presentation, surfaces of its golf course and worry about whether or not it's in a position to host an Irish Open once it's achieved that.
Sorry, I'm back again here, but as far as the major championship is concerned, well, first of all, probably I should have said I worked at probably 10 or 12 or maybe 15 of the major championships anyway, as volunteers and paid employee. But anyway, and I've been a member of seven golfers worldwide, and for that matter, I'm over 50 years a member of the island. First, when I was captain 23 years ago, I suggested to the club that they hold the amateur, they try and get the amateur home internationals, whether it's men or women, home internationals, and that as far as the 4 countries at least is concerned, puts on the map, and probably all of Europe. So really, like, that is one of the things they could focus on. Whether they would be likely to get, say, the Curtis Cup or the Walker Cup is another thing. The Walker Cup seems to be focused to a great extent on the Royal clubs, but that's another issue. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. I think we've all had enough time, queries, questions, been a long night. I'd like to thank Rob for his presentation. Thank you very much.
That's on and off, I can't see that. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. It's off. Yeah, it's off.
Yeah.
Great.